There's something oddly luxurious about macadamia nuts. They show up in expensive cookies, fancy chocolates, and tiny snack packs that somehow cost more than an entire bag of peanuts. They're smooth, buttery, rich, and almost too perfect to feel ordinary. But what exactly are they? Are they really nuts? Why are they so expensive? And how did this small, round snack become one of the most prized foods in the world? Because behind that creamy crunch is a story involving ancient rainforests, extremely stubborn shells, global farming, and even a little bit of accidental science. Macadamia nuts may look simple, but they've had quite a journey before ending up in your ice cream or trail mix. And today we're cracking that story open, right here on History of Simple Things. Macadamia nuts come from evergreen trees native to Australia. Specifically, they originally grew in the rainforests of Queensland and New South Wales, where Indigenous Australians had known about them for thousands of years before the rest of the world paid attention. The nuts come from trees in the genus Macadamia, and while several species exist, only 2 are commonly eaten because the others can actually be bitter or mildly toxic. Now here's the funny part. Macadamia nuts seem almost designed to resist being eaten. Their shells are famously hard, so hard that they're considered one of the toughest nut shells in the world. It takes enormous pressure to crack one open. Early processing machines struggled with them because ordinary nutcrackers simply weren't enough. Inside that nearly indestructible shell is the creamy white kernel people recognize today. And unlike peanuts, which technically grow underground and are legumes, macadamias are true tree nuts. But getting to that edible center is slow, difficult, and expensive, and that's part of the reason they cost so much. Long before macadamias became luxury snacks, Indigenous Australian communities were already gathering and eating them. Different Aboriginal groups had their own names for the nuts, and they were an important seasonal food source. The trees naturally grew in subtropical rainforests, and the nuts would fall to the ground when ripe. People collected them, cracked them with stones, and sometimes traded them with neighboring communities. In other words, macadamias weren't discovered in the way many old history books claim. They were already deeply familiar to the people who lived alongside these trees for generations. The nut's modern scientific name came later during the 1800s when European botanists began studying Australia's plant life. The name macadamia honors Scottish-Australian chemist John Macadam, although ironically, he didn't actually discover the nut itself. And while European settlers recognized the tree's potential, they quickly realized growing macadamias commercially would not be easy. If you've ever stared at the price tag of macadamia nuts and wondered if there was gold hidden inside, you're not alone. Macadamias are among the most expensive nuts in the world for several reasons. First, the trees take patience. A macadamia tree can take 7 to 10 years before producing significant amounts of nuts. That's a long wait for farmers compared to faster-growing crops. Second, the harvesting process is complicated. The nuts fall to the ground when ripe, so orchards need constant monitoring and collection. Then comes the difficult part, removing that rock-hard shell without damaging the kernel inside. And even after cracking them open, macadamias can spoil if handled improperly because of their high oil content. The trees themselves are also sensitive. They prefer very specific climates, warm temperatures, moderate rainfall, and protection from harsh winds. That limits where they can grow successfully. So while peanuts or almonds can be produced on massive scales relatively cheaply, macadamias require time, care, specialized equipment, and ideal conditions. That creamy bite comes with a lot of work behind it. Even though macadamias originated in Australia, many people associate them with Hawaii. That's because Hawaii played a huge role in turning macadamias into a global industry. Macadamia trees were brought to Hawaii in the late 1800s, mostly as ornamental trees at first. People liked how they looked, but eventually growers realized the islands had nearly perfect conditions for commercial farming. Warm climate, check. Volcanic soil, check. Plenty of rainfall, also check. By the early 20th century, Hawaiian farmers began developing orchards specifically for nut production. Over time, Hawaii became one of the world's best-known macadamia producers, especially after companies started selling roasted macadamias to tourists. That connection became so strong that many people today assume macadamias are native to Hawaii, even though they actually came from Australia. Still, Hawaii helped transform the nut from a regional rainforest food into an international snack associated with luxury and tropical vacations. Here's a strange fact many pet owners don't know. Macadamia nuts are toxic to dogs. Scientists still don't fully understand why, but even small amounts can cause weakness, vomiting, tremors, and temporary mobility problems in dogs. Thankfully, most cases are not fatal with proper care, but veterinarians strongly advise keeping macadamias away from pets. Humans, meanwhile, can safely enjoy them, unless allergies are involved, of course. It's one of those odd reminders that foods perfectly normal for humans can affect animals very differently. Chocolate, grapes, onions, and macadamias all fall into that category. So while macadamias may seem harmless sitting in a cookie tin, they're definitely not a snack to share with your dog. Macadamia nuts may seem like simple snacks, but they're actually the result of ancient ecosystems, difficult farming, engineering challenges, and centuries of human history. From Australian rainforests to Hawaiian orchards to grocery shelves around the world, their journey has been surprisingly complicated. They're expensive because they take time. They're famous because they taste unlike almost anything else. And they've survived millions of years thanks to one incredibly stubborn shell. So the next time you bite into a macadamia cookie or spot a tiny bag of them with a shocking price tag, you'll know there's far more behind that buttery crunch than most people realize. And honestly, for a nut that barely wants to be opened in the first place, macadamias have done pretty well for themselves. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the history of simple things. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more stories woven through the smallest details.